I can go ahead and share my screen.
Okay.
Let me see from beginning. Okay, and let me go ahead and okay. Hey, screen share. Okay, there we are. Okay, so I just pretty much put the agenda that I wanted to focus on for my presentation. So just to give you a background for my observation two, my observation two is focusing on a needs assessment. So what I wanted to do was to get community members together, parents, teachers, and some administrators, and look at the district's needs assessment
Okay.
and utilize that needs assessment to look at the alignment between the needs assessment and some district goals. Then also use that information to look at the alignment, is whether or not the goal is on target based upon the problem statements and the different district priorities. Then even take that a step further by looking at the performance objectives and the strategies. And so as I was reviewing this, um, I took a look at the districts last year, the district's needs assessment, and then looked at the priority statements. And I thought about the fact that, I mean, the problem statements, and I thought about the fact that looking at the entire thing would be more than, be several meetings. So I
Mm-hmm.
thought about just looking at the problem statements, because when I looked at the district problem statements, there were several problem statements that were focused on a specific need. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
how I was able to isolate, okay, there are issues. For example, there were a lot of problem statements that were geared towards middle school. In addition to a lot of problem statements that were geared towards literacy in the third grade. So what I
Mm-hmm.
decided to do, which is not notated here, after I looked at everything, I thought about, okay, let's isolate it and look at a specific problem and the problem statements around the specific problem. So I wanted to focus on the problems that were around middle school, and then even taking that a step further and then focusing on, there was a problem that was related to teacher retention for the middle school level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, and then, so what I wanted to do was take a problem such as that, look at the goal that's aligned with that to see that, to talk about the alignment, and maybe get suggestions about, maybe from, from the community partnerships, about how it can be even more aligned, how the goal can be even more aligned possibly.
Mm-hmm.
And then even taking the performance objectives and the strategies to look at the alignment, and maybe look at some gaps and maybe suggest some next steps.
Okay.
And so that's pretty much what I have here. So my agenda, I put review of district's needs assessment, isolate one major problem of focus, analyze the district's goals regarding the problem for alignment, analyze the district's performance objectives and strategies concerning the problem, identify gaps and suggest strategies for improvement, and then list suggestions for campuses to align with meeting the goal. And then my last step was to develop how the with the information, let's develop a protocol for campuses to use to meet the goal.
Okay.
So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, well, it sounds, I mean, the agenda, I can see it flows, the
Okay.
thinking. I guess question that I have, when you look at the very first bullet, you said isolate one major problem of focus. So, and you mentioned several things here, like you mentioned teacher retention, you mentioned how they focus on middle school and third grade. What is that one major problem of focus that you
So
want to
the one
focus on?
major problem of focus is that there's issues along the third grade period. Let me pull up the district's needs assessment. That way I can, and actually I might have it downloaded, to be honest. Let me check and see if I have it downloaded. Maybe this is it. I think so. And I'm going to go to, because there's a list of problem statements, and maybe, oh, here we go. Okay, let me maximize this. Do you still see my screen? Do you see the
Yes.
do you see the needs assessment?
No, I don't see the needs assessment. I
You
only
just see the PowerPoint?
Yes.
Okay, let me stop sharing that. Okay, I believe this is it. Okay, so when I look at the district, when I look at the problem statements, there were a lot of problem statements that were geared around middle school. For example, in grades 6 through 8, when compared to the state, gaps were reduced, but gaps remain greater than 5%, et cetera, et cetera. And then another one, if I look at problem statement number 7, so it was problem statement number 5. And then when I look at problem statement number 7, students in grades 6 through 8 score below the state. And then it has the root causes. There is not a consistent instructional model at the middle school level. That's what they named as the root cause for that. Problem statement number 5, root cause was inconsistent curriculum at the middle school level. And I think that there was 2 more, and it was around teachers and teachers retention. And let me also look at the goals, because the goals will actually tell us. Okay, so goal number 4. So if I look at goal number 4 for middle grades, it talks about the STAR results was mixed for reading, but relatively positive for math when compared to the state. And then in math, increases were evident for grades 6 to 8 for both approaches and meets when compared to the state. Okay, so when I look at the goals, that's what we have for the goals. And one of the goals and performance objectives was geared around retaining effective teachers for the instructional piece. And so what I would have them to do, so I would focus on the middle school problems, the middle school goals, and then look at the problem statements and strategies surrounding that. So even the review of, whether or not those goals are targeted enough, or whether or not the performance objectives and the standards, the strategies are targeted enough, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to, let me pull up, and then I'll pull up one of the goals, and then I show you. Okay, here we go. Let me get out of this and reshare my screen because I pulled up Plan for Learning here. Okay, looking at the performance objective 1, student achievement on TEKS aligned assessments in reading and math. So that one is focused on student achievement. So let me stretch this out a little bit more and look at the strategy. Increase inclusion support through SPED facilitators. Provide additional guidance for honors. Expand the number of elementary schools offering 6th grade. Provide a comprehensive support system of support for new teachers, including mentoring and strategic professional development. So let's just say we decide to focus on strategy 4 for our protocol, to help build a protocol so that this particular strategy can be carried out.
Mm-hmm.
So we will focus on that one problem, look at this one goal, and then looking at this one goal, look at the alignment between the goal and the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Suggest anything additional if necessary, and then also look at the performance objectives and the alignment and the action steps as far as the strategies, and possibly expand, suggest upgrades, and then choose one of these strategies to develop a protocol that could be used to ensure that this is taking place or this is happening.
Mm-hmm. I guess my question is, how specific do you need to be, or how broad do you need to be?
There's not a standard of the specificity of the particular objective chosen in order to do the observation, the purpose chosen to do the observation. However, within the amount of time, I just wanted to make sure. So I guess, I mean, are you suggesting that maybe I should narrow it down even further?
No, I just think, well, I think I see it twofold. The narrowing it down to this specific level. I mean, this is our district improvement plan.
Right.
So even if you're talking to the superintendent, you can kind of talk about, where are the gaps, right?
Right.
Because even this, as I'm reading this, I mean, yeah, I see where they're going, but sometimes, like, why does that fit there, right?
Right. Right.
How is that tied to the goal that we're trying to achieve?
Right.
So I already see some misalignment
Right.
when you're reviewing that. So if someone's actually going back and really looking at it and saying, hey, I mean, you can offer some suggestions on how you can make it more aligned.
Okay.
But go back to the problem statement. Which problem statement? Because I guess you said several.
Yeah, so I just wanted to focus on that one problem statement that, let me go back to, let me see if it's on here.
I think it all begins with that. So let's look at the
Yes.
problem statement.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so we have a few problem statements that are related to middle school. So I guess I need to choose one. Okay, so this is the students in grade 6 to 8 score below the state. Okay, the next one, there's a consistent enrollment decrease at the middle school grades. The next one, the gap between the district and the state results, but this is grades 3 through 8. There's a gap on both performance levels, approaches, and meets. The next one, so there are a lot of them that are focused on the middle school level, which is the reason why it kind of drew my attention. In grades 6 through 8, when compared to the state, gaps were reduced, but gaps remain greater than 5 percentage points for all grades at all levels, and that's at the middle school level. Then they put as a root cause inconsistent curriculum, middle school master schedule and structure issues, lack of specific middle school professional development / learning to build consistent teacher retention at middle grade. So that's where I got that from. I know I read it.
So which, because I think that's how you narrow it down. Like, which of these problem statements speaks more to you?
That one, the one that I just read with the in grade 6 through 8, when compared to the state, the gaps were reduced, and then the root cause being inconsistent curriculum, middle school master schedule and structural issues, or lack of specific middle school professional development / learning.
See, so I think if you focus on that one, I think it's narrow enough, but also broad enough to be able for you to kind of really, really build it out.
Okay.
Because you're talking about gaps reduced, but gaps remain greater than 5 percentage points for all grades at the performance level, at all performance levels. So you're talking about, right, approaches, meets, and masters.
Right.
Now, the reason I think this is powerful because you know where we are with curriculum and trying to implement a district-wide curriculum.
Right.
Especially with Amplify and for you, Carnegie, right? For you?
Yeah, yes, Carnegie and Amplify.
So really, when you look at inconsistent curriculum, I'm thinking about, yes, we're doing it, but how well are we actually really doing it? You can find it out as a principal. You say, well, yeah, I mean, it's out there, it's available, but we're still doing our thing.
Right.
That could be something that you can find out without naming names and pointing fingers, but say, hey, we said we're going to do a coherent curriculum, but you know that about 30% of our campuses aren't really implementing the curriculum with fidelity.
Right.
So like you can find that out.
Okay. And so, okay, so what would be, so you're saying that I can find that out for the purpose for this meeting, or have develop a strategy during that meeting in order to find that out?
No, I think you just develop strategies, because I think all this is not necessarily you're going to be doing it. You're helping the superintendent to say, yes, you did say we're going to do this, but are we actually doing it? Even if you go on to the next one, the strategy, middle school master schedule and structure issues. Have you been to those master schedule meetings?
Yes.
See, now you can talk about, here's the things that we've done with the goal of doing this. Because I know next year all middle schools are going to have the same periods, the same, right?
Right.
Which is new for us. We didn't do that in the past.
Right.
And then when you look at lack of specific middle school professional development, I mean, you can say, here's all the middle school professional development that's been offered. Learning, see, to me, that's a misalignment to build consistent teacher retention at middle grades.
Yeah, that's not the same. Yeah.
But I think that could be maybe one of your gaps. It's like, does that really fit there? You're talking about, I mean, it is going to have impact on increasing performance. But you're talking about curriculum, you're talking about master schedule, and then you throw in teacher retention.
Yeah.
So to me, like that one, I don't know if that actually goes there.
Right.
But again, that's a good thing when you look at suggestions. You may suggest that may be better in another area.
Okay.
But no, I just think all these is right. You're talking through. I don't think you have to have these answers. At least I don't think so for your meeting.
No,
right,
I don't.
On Wednesday.
No.
But at least you've thought through. The good thing about this, when you have your problem statement, you already have kind of what the root causes are. Now you have to just like, what have we done this year to address? Well, first of all, I can give you an inconsistent curriculum. That was a root cause. So what did the superintendent do? She made sure that we had the same curriculum for all middle schools.
Right.
And Amplify at 6-8, Carnegie at 6-8. That was something that was done.
Right.
Middle school master schedule, we've had 3 master schedule meetings, at least 3, maybe more. Just with middle school, we've gone through and we've kind of brainstormed and we came up with this is the master schedule we're going to adopt next year. Like those 2, you can actually list what we've done, but you can also list, based on your opinion, what are some things that we could do to make it better.
Okay.
And I think that's the protocols that you build.
Okay.
Because really, how does the superintendent know that we're implementing the curriculum across the board?
Right.
How is she going to know that everyone has the same master schedule, or Jacqueline Rivers has a great relationship with her ED, had a conversation and got an exception not to follow what everyone else is doing?
Right.
I mean, that could happen. But what is the system to be able to make sure that is taking place, that we're executing this like we said we were?
Okay.
And then just objective strategies. And then the end result, I mean, you can tie it into, he says greater than 5 percentage points for all grades at all performance levels, but gaps remain greater than 5 percentage points for all grades. Data-wise, you can go back and check, is that, did we reduce that gap so it's less than 5 percentage points?
Okay.
I mean, that's going to be your end result at the end as we get star.
Okay. So basically what I can do is just take one of these of focus. So if I decide to focus on the curriculum, and we can come up with gaps if necessary. I mean, if there are gaps or whatever, and then come up with a protocol of progress monitoring to see if everyone is implementing the curriculum with fidelity. Then your next step will be to align that with data. So when we get the data back to see if, okay, did this implementation of the same curriculum across the board help to improve the gaps in student performance?
Yep.
Okay.
And as you're talking that through, I can go back and even see, again, because some campuses are probably, you can tell, are really implementing with fidelity, and some aren't. When you look at the data, can you say that those that really were implementing with fidelity had greater scores than those that weren't?
Okay.
And that's curious information to have, because actually you may not. Because some principals may be trying to do still that star prep, even though we said we weren't going to do it.
Right.
But on certain days of the week, say, hey, we're going to do this. What's going to be interesting, if you notice that those that aren't implementing it with fidelity, if they get better results than those that are implementing it with fidelity.
That will be interesting.
Right? Because that leads to a whole other discussion.
Right.
But as a superintendent, because that's your classes, then you need to know that, and how are you going to address that? Okay. But I think that goes to suggestions for campuses, or suggestions even for the superintendent. And then when you develop a protocol for campuses to use to meet the goal, that could be just a protocol. How are you going to make sure that everyone is implementing the curriculum with fidelity?
Okay. Okay.
I can see it. I can see the different components.
Okay. Okay.
The last one is still throwing me off, because I mean, you could track professional development and learning.
Are you talking about the learning to build consistent teacher retention?
Yeah. I mean, to me, someone's gonna have to make that connection to me, because I can go back and look at you, and you can go back and see, here's all the professional development and learning that we built into the curriculum. But to me, you're doing that specifically for the gap. To me, I'm thinking about the PD around Amplify, the PD around Carnegie,
right,
the PD around master schedule. Unless you're saying that causes teacher retention, the more consistent I'm the curriculum, the better the master schedule is, the more likely I'm going to stay. But to me, that's a stretch. I mean, I don't think teachers are leaving for a whole different reason. I don't know if, in my mind, if I see that connection there with a root cause.
Right. Yeah, that was a stretch.
Right.
And maybe they're meaning that there needs to be, I mean, that at the middle school level, there do need to be some kind of initiative to retain teachers, but I understand what you're saying. That does not go right there.
Yeah, because I mean, I agree, and you probably agree with this too, that yeah, if you have consistent teachers that stay there over time, that your data should get better.
Right.
But to me, it's saying that the lack of PD and the lack of learning to build consistent. To me, this is saying that if you have good professional development and good learning, that teachers are more likely to stay. I don't know if I personally agree with that statement.
Right. Yeah. You're correct.
But it could be just the way I'm reading it. I think it's a good discussion. You gonna meet with who? Your professor?
So, yeah. So, well, I'm not gonna meet with my professor prior to this. He wants us to, first of all, just meet with you guys. I've already given him my plan per se. I've already given him my plan, and what he wanted was for all of us to get with the site supervisors so you guys can kind of help us focus our observations. And then so after, when I do my presentation on Wednesday, then after that, you and I are supposed to get together again to review the presentation and look at the alignment, I guess, to the agenda. Let me read what he has. It just says here to debrief with the site supervisor, and it just says I will lead the debrief. So just the alignment to the agenda, and I guess the alignment to the standards.
Okay.
So
again, the good thing about this, you have your problem statement, you have your root causes. Now you have to just make sure that everything that we're doing or everything that we've done is addressing this problem statement.
Okay.
And I think with your experience, I mean, you've think about all the PD, but don't go back and think about all the the principal meetings that we've had this year. If you notice, every principal meeting we've had an amplifier Eureka section.
Okay.
Right, every one of them, because it's focused on that inconsistent curriculum.
Right.
We haven't talked about master schedule, but we've had master schedule meetings. I don't know if you've sent your team or you've been there at NCH with Leslie Stevens, right, talking about master schedules. See, so we've done all those things this year. Okay. The question is, are those enough to have an impact on the data?
Yes. Okay.
And I think that's where you go and you identify the gaps. How can you make our curriculum more consistent from the level that you're at? How can we make sure master schedules are uniform across the district? Okay. And I think that's where your protocols come in.
Right. Okay. Specific uniform. Well, I think for the that's the meeting in a nutshell. So and just to help focus the flow of the meeting.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I think I mean, I like the structure here. When you look at I'm just going back. Let me go back and say you're going to review the district's needs assessment, which you have here. You look at the district goals regarding the problem. And it tells right there, there's a problem, and there's or even the goals even mentioned right there, because 5 percentage points, less than 5 percentage points gap.
Right.
You look at the performance objectives and the strategies concerning the problem. To me, that the root cause is really what are the main objectives that's causing for the concern of those three things, especially for this one. I think the real work's going to begin is, what are some gaps in your suggest for strategies for improvement?
So if we look at these root causes and if we align the root causes with the strategies, if we look at the side by side with the root causes and the strategies, we can view the alignment, because will these strategies support the root causes? Would it,
And based on what I read earlier, I see some misalignment there.
Right.
So I think if you put it there side by side, you can kind of see, hey, I questioned this and I maybe discussed this, so maybe we do need to go back as a district and revisit how can we make the problem statement, the root causes, and what did you say, the goals, or
the strategies.
The strategies. Mm-hmm. Does that match up? Mm-hmm. And then again, it could or it could. I mean, that's a gap, and that's a suggestion for you to improve. And then then go back to, again, here's some specific suggestions that campuses need to do to align. I think the more consistent and the more specific you can be with that 1, 2, 3, the fifth bullet.
Okay.
Like, what suggestions would you have for campuses to align in meeting the goal?
Okay.
Like, and if you can list like even 2 or 3 things, I think it'll be powerful in the meeting.
Okay.
And then the last one, develop a protocol for campuses to use to meet the goal. And I think that's where, even though you found the gaps, here's just one protocol that we could implement to make it even better and more aligned.
Okay. Okay.
Yep. That's a good project. That's actually a good first time I've seen this with an intern. It's, again, first of all, it forces me to go back and really look at our district improvement plan. Mm-hmm. And the needs assessment. From a system perspective, I would say this. Uh-huh. We put it together. It's just like a CIP. So just think about it like your Canvas principle. You put your CIP together.
Right.
When was the last time you looked at your CIP that
aligned? Right.
I give
it to my office manager. And every time she submits something, she just makes sure she looks at it and align it to something. But yeah.
Right. So I think it's the same thing here. I think we put it down, but can we make it stronger? Can we make it better? Can we make it more aligned? Mm-hmm. And I think you can offer some good suggestions here.
Okay. I love it. Thank you. I appreciate it. And I apologize for the late notice, but he sent that to us last week and I was like, I didn't want to text you while you were on your break.
No, that's all right. I mean, this kind of works out for me. So just know it's part of what we do. So okay. I'm good with it.
Thank you. And I'll follow up with you again, I guess Wednesday, so we can get the follow-up date so I can be on target to submit this by the 24th.
Okay. Just let me know. Keep on bugging me. Anna was part of I included Anna in my. Yes. So, and I made sure because she asked me today, hey, you need to do this. And she was texting me right now that you could get on here at 8. So just keep on working through her. Yes, sir. If you need to get it done. So I'll find the time to make sure that we do what you need to do so you can be successful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And you have a good evening.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good afternoon, everyone. We are here as a group and as a community to focus on our district needs assessment. And so the purpose of this is so that we can look at what our district has prioritized as problems for the district as a whole. These problems for the district as a whole takes into consideration all problems for all campuses. And what the district does, the district uses those problems, figure out what the causes of those problems are, then takes it further to develop goals. And our campuses have to use those goals in order to generate a CIP based upon the CIP that the district has generated. Okay, and what I mean by CIP, I mean what? Campus improvement plan. Okay, so the district has to create an improvement plan, and based upon the district's improvement plan, campuses have to align their improvement plan with the district. So what we're going to do, we're going to focus on an analysis of what the district has prioritized as a problem that relates specifically to middle schools. So the district has a bunch of problems. this, probably 10 to 15 issues that has to be tackled in order to move students to the next level. There is no way in a small amount of time that we can analyze and tackle every problem. So what we're going to do, we're going to, as a community, tackle the problem, isolate one problem that is relevant to our community, which is the problem as it relates to middle school campuses. So present in this meeting, I have a whole lot of community partnerships who have come to join me so that they can give me the perspectives from their lens of what our problems are, their perspectives of how to tackle the problem, and then their perspectives of how to get our students to the next steps. So we're going to go around the room and let everyone introduce themselves, and we're going to start right over here.
I am Dr. Tiffany Gowdy. I'm an administrator.
I'm Tommy Nichols. I'm a community liaison.
I'm Tony Owens. I'm the owner of T.O. Enterprise.
I am Ashley Thomas, a teacher.
I'm Patricia Perry, an administrator.
I'm Cynthia Arsenault, a teacher.
I am co-pastor Mary Helen Ingram from Greater Deliverance Apostolic Church.
I am Bishop Ingram from Dallas, Texas.
I'm Pamela Apia Poku. I'm a special education teacher.
I'm Margaret Handy, parent of a student.
Racinda Ellis, an office manager.
I'm Shmitra Lee, counselor. I'm Nicole Donahue, specialized instructional support.
Very good. So we want to thank all of you, and I'm going to take the time out to give you a hand. Y'all can clap for yourself if you want. For taking part in this task with me. I appreciate you for taking the time out of your busy schedules, and I appreciate your principal. I'm going to have to make sure that I let your principals know, for those of you who are from your campuses, participate in this, let your principals know that I really thank them for allowing you to be here with me on today. So what we're going to do, again, like we said, we're going to discuss the needs assessment. And again, the purpose of this is to isolate one of the problems, because the district has a lot of problems. We have a bunch of campuses. This is a large district. What do we have, like 200 and some thousand, 200 and some campuses here in this district, okay? And about 150,000 students. Am I correct? In this district? So because of that, the district has to holistically isolate problems that exist across the board. We are going to focus on one problem, and that is the problem as it relates to middle schools. And I'm going to, in a few minutes, give you that specific problem in just a minute. But we're going to take that problem, we're going to look at the alignment, because guess what? If the problem and the root causes are not aligned, then we're just hitting in the wind. If the root causes and the goals and the strategies and the objectives are not aligned in order to alleviate the problem, guess what? We're hitting in the wind. And so that is why each of you are here, because we don't want to have tunnel vision. We want to be able to look at the situation from everybody's perspective so that we can analyze, inform, and then also get from one step to the next. Okay? So, at your tables, each of you have what is called a district needs assessment analysis. And hopefully I put enough at the tables, and if you can just grab that. It looks like this. You can take it and you can look at it, and if you need more copies, I have more. That's right there. Okay, you guys need more up here. Okay, looking at this sheet. So the problem that we are going to isolate and focus. Okay, so I've already taken the problem off of the list. that we're gonna focus on. That problem, as stated by the district, is in grades 6 through 8. When compared to the state, gaps were reduced, but gaps remain greater than 5% points for all grades at all performance levels. Let me break that down. So what that means is this. When after the students took the STAR test, okay, our district compared 6th, 7th, and 8th grade student performance to the state overall performance. Okay, and there was a gap. At least 5 percentage points, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Okay? Meaning that the district was scoring less than the state. At least 5 percentage points. Okay, everybody follow me? Okay, so this is what the district said the root cause was. The first root cause was inconsistent curriculum. The second root cause was middle school master schedule and structure issues. And the third root cause was lack of specific middle school professional development, and they put / learning to build consistent teacher retention at middle grades. Okay? Everybody follow me? So what we're gonna do, we're gonna stop right there. Okay, we're gonna pause right there. So you guys have a task sheet in the middle of your table. I just put one because I want one person to take the lead, volunteer to be the leader in order to just scribe. You're gonna be the scribe. You're gonna read it and you're gonna scribe. I'm gonna give you about 10 seconds to figure out who's going to be the leader. And then if you can't decide, then I will assist. I will assist. So your task is just to write responses and read. Okay? Now, so raise your hand in the room if you're that person. Raise your hand in the room if you're that person. We're going to read the questions for task 1. So this is going to be our first task. Read the questions for task 1. And you're going to write the responses of people in your group. Okay? So this is the opportunity for you guys to talk in your group. Okay? So for task 1, what it says is, it's the analysis of the problem statement and the root cause. What I want you guys to do is to look at what the district has identified as the problem. Look at the root causes of the problem and see if it aligns. Like, what those root causes actually stem from that problem? Does it make sense that, for example, inconsistent curriculum? Would inconsistent curriculum stem from that problem, or make that a problem? Okay? That's a yes or no thing. Okay? Then explain why do you think so. Then you go to the next question. Is each root cause specific enough? And that's why I have different people in your group, because the different people can kind of speak from their perspective and kind of help. Okay? And then, do you have any suggestions for upgrade? If you don't think it's specific enough, do you have suggestions of how it can be more specific? Or if you feel like there should be other root causes that are more important, what suggestions do you have? Does everybody understand that first task? Okay, guess what? I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. 5 minutes. So let's go through that in your group. And so this is responses, and that's right there. Okay? We're going to the next because we want to get delve into the meat of it. Okay, so we'll start over here with this group over here on this side. What suggestions, if any, do you guys have for upgrades?
So what a couple of things we said was more teacher timing, and the other was less class time. We kind of differ on that. So some feel
more class time work, some less class time. So it's kind of just figuring out what is the appropriate amount of.
So you're saying more teacher autonomy should be one of the root causes of the gap?
Not one of the root causes, it ties into the root cause of the curriculum, the inconsistent curriculum.
Okay, so if it ties into, how can we address it though? Like, would it be addressed as another problem, or would it be addressed as a root cause?
What a root cause? It would be addressed as a root cause.
And so do you think that root cause will directly impact this gap?
Yes.
Okay, so you feel like more teacher autonomy would directly impact this gap, and what was the other thing that you said?
Less class
The
time.
class time. The class time. So the class time directly impacts whether it's more or less that's needed. That's up for discussion. We'll figure that out later. But the class time definitely. So the class time ties in with the curriculum.
Yes.
So you're saying that root cause needs to be more specific instead of saying inconsistent curriculum?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so more specific to what? More specific to what?
What's considered inconsistent about the curriculum? Like, be more specific.
Okay, so let me kind of answer that particular question for you, and I agree with what you're saying, because it could be inconsistency across the board, period. Okay, the inconsistency of the curriculum was from the fact that prior to this year, everybody was able to, we did have a district curriculum guide, right? But we weren't tied to the district curriculum. Each campus could use whatever curriculum they wanted to use to address student deficiencies, right? So now this year it's mandated that we have to use Amplify for reading. It is mandated that you have to use Carnegie for math. That's a mandate. It has not come down the pipe yet about science and social studies. However, I'm pretty sure it will be soon. But a specific curriculum for those two subjects at least. So that's what they mean by inconsistent curriculum. They wanted every campus at each level to have the same curriculum utilized for instruction in the classroom. Okay? So that's what I mean by inconsistent curriculum. However, the question is, does that still make it consistent? That's the question. Just because we're using the same curriculum, is that going to help? That's the question. All right here. What do you guys want to point out about from your discussions?
We talked about the inconsistent curriculum as well.
Okay. Everybody stuck on that curriculum?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mentioned Amplify and how, we used to not have to use that, and now they're, consistent about you using that. And I think that if we could be a little bit more consistent with the curriculum, instead of just saying this is what you have to use, and just go back to allow us to do whatever is best for our campus.
Okay.
And we be consistent that way. I think that would have an impact in helping to close this gap.
Okay.
We also talked about teacher retention.
Okay.
And how that has a huge impact on that gap, because when you have new teachers every year, and especially if they're brand new teachers, and if they don't have the skills that they need to assist with closing this gap, then we're going to continue that.
Okay, very good. And so what I want you guys to highlight is, because I heard you say consistent curriculum, but then you said that it's still not consistent. So let's kind of highlight that, because we're going to come back to that, okay? Because these are common things. Let's go to this group over here.
Well, we said, you asked what are suggestions?
Yes.
So we thought, besides just adding an inconsistent curriculum, we thought to add the language of a high quality, viable curriculum because we know in science and social studies, there are, at our district level, there have been some shells of curriculums created for them, but it does not mean that is a high quality Bible. And also, as we're using Amplify and Carnegie, and sometimes we find gaps, but then teachers then have a level of autonomy they feel like they should have, or have a level of autonomy where they're adding supplemental aids. It's not consistent and it's not high quality.
Right.
And so, which still causes us to have an inconsistent curriculum. Right. And then we said, we don't think it's enough language in there to talk about structure issues. When we talk about middle school master schedule and the structure issues, we'd like for them to kind of spell it out a little bit more, and then of what that root cause would be. And then last, with the lack of specific middle school professional development and learning to build consistent teacher retention at middle grades, are we talking about lack of specific professional development as it relates to pedagogy or relates to the curriculum? And then it's when we're saying, do we then add that to be, more mandated now? In the past, the district had mandated trainings. Then, so how do we maybe add that to the language or what have you?
So pretty much we all agree that those root causes are not specific enough to address the needs from the lenses in which we work. Because, of course, many of us are working in these areas, and even, parents have to support their children. Our community partners also support us, right? So if the district has not specifically identified what the root cause is, we're just still kind of hitting the wind. So that's what this is for. So we can have we can offer specific suggestions so that when they create it again for the next year, right, we'll have a lens. Go on to the next, because we want to get delve into the meat of it. Okay, so we'll start over here with this group over here on this side. What suggestions, if any, do you guys have for upgrades?
So a couple of things we said was more teacher autonomy, and the other was less class time. We kind of differ on that. So some feel more class time works, some less class time. So it's kind of just figuring out what is the appropriate amount of.
So you're saying more teacher autonomy should be one of the root causes of the gap?
Not one of the root causes, it ties into the root cause of the curriculum, the inconsistent curriculum.
Okay, so if it ties into, how can we address it though? Like, would it be addressed as another problem, or would it be addressed as a root cause?
What root cause? It would be addressed as a root cause.
And so do you think that root cause will directly impact this gap?
Yes.
Okay, so you feel like more teacher autonomy would directly impact this gap, and what was the other thing that you said?
Less class time.
The class time. So the class time directly impacts whether it's more or less that's needed. That's up for discussion. We'll figure that out later. But the class time, definitely. So the class time ties in with the curriculum.
Yes.
So you're saying that root cause needs to be more specific instead of saying inconsistent curriculum?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so more specific to what? More specific to what?
What's considered inconsistent about the curriculum? Like, be more specific.
Okay, so let me kind of answer that particular question for you. And I agree with what you're saying, because it could be inconsistencies across the board, period. Okay, the inconsistency of the curriculum was from the fact that prior to this year, everybody was able to, we did have a district curriculum guide, right? But we weren't tied to the district curriculum. Each campus could use whatever curriculum they wanted to use to address student deficiencies, right? So now this year it's mandated that we have to use Amplify for reading. It is mandated that you have to use Carnegie for math. That's a mandate. It has not come down the pipe yet about science and social studies. However, I'm pretty sure it will be soon. But a specific curriculum for those two subjects at least. So that's what they mean by inconsistent curriculum. They wanted every campus at each level to have the same curriculum utilized for instruction in the classroom. Okay? So that's what I mean by inconsistent curriculum. However, the question is, does that still make it consistent? That's the question. Just because we're using the same curriculum, is that going to help? That's the question. All right here. What do you guys want to point out about from your discussions?
We talked about the inconsistent curriculum as well.
Okay. Everybody stuck on that curriculum?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mentioned Amplify and how, we used to not have to use that, and now they're, consistent about you using that. And I think that if we could be a little bit more consistent with curriculum, instead of just saying this is what you have to use, and just go back to allow us to do whatever is best for our campus.
Okay.
And we be consistent that way. I think that would have an impact in helping to close this gap.
Okay.
We also talked about teacher retention.
Okay.
And how that has a huge impact on that gap, because when you have new teachers every year, and especially if they're brand new teachers, and if they don't have the skills that they need to assist with closing this gap, then we're going to continue that.
Okay, very good. And so what I want you guys to highlight is, because I heard you say consistent curriculum, but then you said that it's still not consistent. So let's kind of highlight that, because we're gonna come back to that, okay? Because these are common themes. Let's go to this group over here.
Well, we said, you asked what are the suggestions?
Yes.
So we thought, besides just adding an inconsistent curriculum, we thought to add the language of a high quality, viable curriculum, because we know in science and social studies, there are, at our district level, there has been some shells of curriculums created for them, but it does not mean that is a high quality viable. And also, as we're using Amplify and Carnegie, and sometimes we find gaps, but then teachers then have a level of autonomy they feel like they should have, or have a level of autonomy where they're adding supplemental aids. It's not consistent and it's not high quality.
Right.
And so, which still causes us to have an inconsistent curriculum. Right. And then we said, we don't think it's enough language in there to talk about structure issues. When we talk about middle school master schedule and the structure issues, we'd like for them to kind of spell it out a little bit more, and then what that root cause would be. And then last, with the lack of specific middle school professional development and learning to build consistent teacher retention at middle grades. Are we talking about lack of specific professional development as it relates to pedagogy, or relates to the curriculum?
Right.
And then when we're saying, do we then add that to be, more mandated now? In the past, the district had mandated trainings. Then, so how do we maybe add that to the language, or what have you?
So pretty much we all agree that those root causes are not specific enough to address the needs from the lenses in which we work. Because, of course, many of us are working in these areas, and even, parents have to support their children. Our community partners also support us, right? So if the district has not specifically identified what the root cause is. We're just still kind of hitting the wind. So that's what this is for. So we can have we can offer specific suggestions so that when they create it again for the next year, right, we'll have a lens. So you look at this problem statement and the root causes.
Yes.
So this is
curriculum is a problem.
But I think if students constantly changing.
Yes.
For example, they start out with one type of curriculum and then they switch to another type of curriculum. And now they have to learn that new curriculum all over again. So they should stick with one because each one plays a part. So some kids just can't with as far as like with building the schedule and when you have a short teachers or latest kids that had that so now they struggle to try to understand.
No, she's on. She skipped the problem.
It's part of the problem.
On the middle school master schedule instruction issue.
But so what about, let's speak to the structure of the master schedule. How would that be an issue of supporting that gap?
Probably with the class times and.
See, I don't think the structure is the issue.
So you don't agree with the structure?
No, because I think you have a set, here's your periods, here's your times. So you work within those confinements of the times.
So you don't think time would be an issue because within your master schedule you're building the time for your classes. So you don't think the time of classes, how long they are staying in math or ELA or whatever, is an issue of a gap?
I do. I feel like that because I feel like, when they were in those classes for 90 minutes plus, they were focused. And then the teacher is more tuned. Now the teacher is more to let's fix the behavior because these kids are sitting too long. So now they're out there. They first 45 minutes may have, but after that.
And so is the class time a problem or is it a problem for the supporting the teachers and the teachers know how to utilize that time?
I say class time.
Because now we have less time. Now the teachers are, in some cases, complaining that they're not finishing instruction. So,
but I got
no, time, yes. It's your parity.
It's still the trouble. So
So we'll have structure the time that they're not. You can't always fluctuate your schedule. Not to be burned out. You got to have what could be done because you're paid.
Okay, what's that?
what could be done to keep the teacher
No, wait.
overwhelmed?
Maybe possibly the professional development, like hitting on how important self-care is.
Yes.
Knowing when to ask for help, it's okay to ask for help.
Would do a teacher have to ask for help to, in some way that
Everyone's at a master's
leadership know that person is all
So I can kind of interject a little bit, and then I'm just gonna let y'all finish y'all's conversation. As a leader, I give help the way that I think you need help. That's in my head that you need help, right? But what's in my way that you need help, or in my head or my perception, may not be what you really are feeling. So we help, and we're making sure that we plan with them. We're making sure we provide resources. You know, like the lessons are actually just given to you, and all you have to do is teach it. And we help by making sure you practice with us, and we give you feedback before you go into classroom, right? But if you need help beyond that, you're gonna have to communicate. I may not know.
Absolutely. That's one thing my administrator always says is, like, I'm not a mind reader. I don't know you need help unless you let me know you need help.
Right.
So.
Right. Right. Okay, you guys have one more minute. We have some rich conversations. Please make sure you definitely get down to the suggestions part. If you have suggested upgrades, we definitely need that feedback. So you have one more minute.
Maybe the curriculum, like, test it out for X amount of time before switching to it. Yeah. I don't know if that's something that's already in place, or if they just look it down and say this isn't working. Let's try something.
Sometimes you don't have
Yeah.
Sometimes they say this is, what you're.
Like science is changing next year.
This is what you're going to be using, and you just have to go with
So that would be helpful.
Okay, so everyone saw how we went through that first task. So I stopped you so that we can go through it to ensure that everyone understood how to go through each task. So you have your person at your table who's reading the task questions and the scribe. So what I need for you to do is to do the same thing we just did. You have tasks 2 through 5 that you should be able to complete in 20 minutes. Those tasks are taking you through each process of ensuring the alignment of the district stated goal with what the district has identified as the problem. Also, ensuring the alignment of the performance objectives and the strategies that the district has outlined so that they can tackle the problem and the root cause. Ensuring the alignment. So what you're going to do, again, you're going to take that information from this district needs assessment analysis, and you're going to answer these task questions. Now, you're not going to answer the task questions for every performance objective when you get to that point, right? As you read, it'll tell you when to analyze the performance objective. Each of you are assigned a performance objective. This table, you will focus on performance objective 1. You guys will focus on performance objective 2, and then you guys will focus on 3. And so we're going to give you 20 minutes to go through tasks 2 through 5. All minds clear? Yeah. Okay, very good.
Analysis of root cause to goal. Says questions to consider: is the goal aligned to each root cause? Is the goal specific enough? And suggestions for upgrades. So now we're looking at goal 4. The second little column here.
Here, right?
So yes, that's for the next task. Yeah, so this one is for the goal and the next.
So basically, will this goal that the district decided to do, would it alleviate please those
Say yes, but the goal is very, it's very vague.
So since that goal is vague, so basically, so you're saying that because it's so vague, you don't know if it's aligned.
Right.
So, okay. maybe let's look at it from this lens. Inconsistent curriculum, master schedule, and what is this? Professional development and retention. Okay, our goal from this problem and this root state, this root cause, our goal is to, at the middle school grade, okay, middle grade student achievement on state assessments in all subjects in domain 1 will increase. So our goal overall is to increase performance based upon this gap. But you also may want to look at from this sense. Just because our performance increased doesn't mean that it's closing the gap.
Exactly right.
Because I've seen this.
So going back to what you said, it's so what you say vague. Okay, so just put that. So it's too vague for us to figure out whether or not it's a line, right? That's what you're saying.
Goal is not specific enough. Because it's just kind of like a boom boom. It didn't give like any.
And so just put a note right there. And then so what would be your suggestion for upgrade? So what elements does that goal need from your perspective in order to make sure it addresses?
I think they would need to address specifically how they want to achieve. I know the objective is how you achieve the goal, but
right, and so it may be that there may be a thought that you may need to table because those objectives may be focused on the. So then you can go back and say, well, not because you have your broad objective. And the way your objectives are made specific is through your performance objectives. Then you can, when you look at the performance objectives and the strategies, then you can go back and say, okay, this goal will address it or this goal won't address it. Okay? Okay.
So that will have to we think it's a line? Okay, so that is a line. Yes. Explain. So we're already saying, for one.
So we're not
we're going to come back.
So what do you guys think?
So we're looking at this and saying the root cause has an impact in line with this goal. An impact on this goal. That's what we're discussing.
Right. Or will the goal have an impact on
The root cause. So having a schedule at the program.
And so that isn't nothing really deep. That can just be a basic yes.
Development.
Yeah.
Okay, great.
Okay. And then you guys can go on to the next one.
And then we talking about,
Yes, it does.
you know, especially at the retention level.
So now we're moving on to performance objective 2.
Yes. Student achievement.
Okay, you guys have 15 minutes, so you don't want to linger too long on one task. You don't want to linger too long on one task. 15 minutes.
I think we're 4. It's task 3 is for performance objective 1, task 4 is 2, and task 5 is performance objective 3.
So but our focus is performance objective 2.
Do we fill it out for all?
We're only doing 2 of those.
Oh, so we're filling out all 3 sections. Okay, so task 3, it says, which performance objective will you focus on? 2. Yes. And then it asks, is the performance objective goal aligned to, performance objective aligned to the goal?
Number 2.
Yes.
Certain guidance for honors.
So did it help?
African
Did it help to
American
look at the
student
performance objective to see whether or not that goal is?
It is, because they gave more,
It's still in here.
The
objective is still not.
Okay.
But you give strategies on how they
that's
plan
good.
to get, how they plan to.
And
get
so
something.
what upgrades do you suggest with this objective? Because in order for us to figure out strategies, we're gonna have to make sure we target what our objective is gonna be. And so in order for us to figure out what strategies, in order to alleviate these root causes, we have to know. So this right here, so this is broad. This has to be specific enough so we'll know what our next steps will be. So what suggestions, like what does it have that you feel like you need for it to have the amount of growth?
For me, the objective is fine. Yes. I think the objectives is fine because then you're gonna break it down in strategies.
So you think you need to add more strategies in?
Up to me, we might. Because I hadn't really read through the strategies.
Okay.
So, but just looking at the objective, I don't have an issue with the objective. It has a time frame, it has everything, tells you what your goal, where you're going, tells you what your the expectation is, how many you're trying to get there. So for me, that one is fine. What was the last question on test?
So that was like 16%.
For that objective, I really
So
think.
they're aligned with both, they need one and both.
Our English scores already 74%, they may be higher.
So we.
I mean, they're already saying they're from 40.
40, for all, we're just saying 40%.
40.
Well, this is the same, this is where we are, first 6 through 8 grade, home study sessions and all our subjects.
28 and now, little guy 20.
This right here is inclusive of all students. This right here is just specific to African American students, because apparently African American students, in order to meet this goal,
It increases every
the African American students have to come up to this.
The previous year wasn't from 40 to 50, it was from something else.
Oh, okay.
And then it's been moved up.
Which also, just looking at this, it denotes a gap, because this is where you're trying to go to. So obviously, the other student groups are much higher.
You really tell them, right, the notebook. Is the goal specific enough? What did we say? Yes. If not, we have a suggestion regarding that.
If we're saying it is, we should have.
Right. You guys have 10 minutes, you have 10 minutes, you have 10 minutes.
Increase that, right?
You guys should be on task 3, should be on task 3, should be on task 3.
Performance objectives.
Okay, we're on task 3.
So we're talking about, are the strategies aligned to performance objective, right? For African American students, that's what it's asking. So, so strategy one says inclusion support through SPED facilitator.
Okay.
Provide additional guidance on learners on the program, off-ramp, and the system of support, expand the number of. So,
Okay, let's see.
how would this
Student achievement on
the percentage of our African American students?
You mean the offering sixth grade?
By using these, this is what we're looking at, these strategies, right? We're trying to see if these strategies are aligned to this, right? So do we see an alignment if these things
Happen.
okay, well, our African American students,
What's the
can
question?
we increase their assessment goals here?
Do y'all believe that because it also
do we see
says
that as
by
being
domain one, which is achievement?
Expand the number of elementary schools might, because it makes the classrooms smaller.
Middle of.
I can see that.
And we all agree that our African American students need a small student to ratio.
They do.
What about this bed? Are they
Increase in, yes.
Yes.
A lot of our
very classified as special?
Yes. So yes, that would have.
What about this number 2, provide additional guidance for honors,
Student achievement
on ramps, off ramps, and systems of support?
I don't.
The only, it's a lot. Do they ask
Will that increase?
The providing
I think it would increase because the teacher gets more, support? Yeah, support.
But it is, It is, data shows that there's a low percentage of African American students who are classified.
Yes.
So, but it says provide additional guidance for honors.
Oh,
So that
okay, so
guidance.
change the guidelines on how you can get into honors.
Right.
Oh, that's what the on-ramp is. Okay, okay.
Is specific enough.
Okay.
Because I think that, you know, just looking at the students that are in state.
Yeah, I guess the only question I have, just being in honors.
Yes, yes.
It's just a mentality thing.
Yes.
Just being in honors. So yeah, because it says on state assessments in all subjects in domain 1. And this one says state assistance. Oh, reading and math.
Effective.
6 grade, 6 grade, 8. When do we deal with
Yes.
that will have an impact on
Yes.
Especially if you're attractive, highly effective, highly
because
effective.
now we're only doing grade and math, and this specifically grade 6 to 8 on state assessments in all subjects.
So are all of these strategies stated the way they need to be stated? Do we need any specificity in these strategies? Or would y'all add something else? Add something else. What else would be needed in order to make sure we improve the performance of this particular population?
They include all subjects.
Okay, you guys, you should be moving to task 4 if you have not already.
And also. Okay. Yes, I know. Is each aligned to the what? Mentorship for African-American students support. How does that align to the mentorship program?
Well, this was a performance date from one of us.
I'm talking about strategy more.
I feel like I've been on the merry-go-round.
The last one is, does each strategy address the root cause and suggestions for upgrade?
That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, that's
the
the root cause. So it's tying it back to this consistent curriculum and
So inclusion.
The root cause.
That's the teacher, so that's not.
so does increased inclusion support through SPED, does that align or address inconsistent curriculum?
Okay, you have about 7 minutes. It's going to be very important for you to finish up task 5. It's going to be very important for by the end of the 7 minutes, we will have all finished task 5.
Explain.
Right.
I know. I'm saying, okay, what's the question?
Is each strategy aligned to the performance?
Is student achievement, teach spine assessment,
That one
reading,
ties
math.
directly
To
into
the lack of.
our teacher retention.
I don't know enough about what y'all.
Yeah, you gonna see it's aligned.
I mean, it's obviously it's a line. Because remember when y'all explained it to me about the teachers, the one teacher that does the inclusion piece, right? That one teacher. So the one teacher is I don't know, but that's the person.
So alignment means that if it's going to support and help the situation, if it's directly, it's a direct support, is going to directly resolve
Even if it's one person, you know, if you just
or
add one-
impact. Directly impact, will it directly impact?
We ain't
So-
said nothing about effectiveness.
Not
But we. That's a lot though. Yeah.
Okay, more money can have too. Is that on the list? A bonus on the list?
I was gonna put that down as an upgrade.
But
But that's a good point.
we say that's a line. Let's go get them a line.
So each, yes,
Or we could say no and say it for those reasons why.
if all are,
And then-
if all are aligned, then you don't have to put,
Right.
targeted, and, yeah. you still would have to, it's because if y'all feel that something else needs to be said, if you feel like there has to be something is missing, there has to be another strategy, then you still want to put suggested updates. So they would all still be online, but what else is needed?
So what's the likelihood of how many teachers would it?
It don't even matter.
It don't even matter.
You know?
Is it gonna help it is or not?
That's what I'm saying. I'm saying if I say we say no, we say why. If we say why, we say what we suggest and make it feasible. Or just say yes and no.
Just say yes.
You can just say yes, but still, it sounds like from your discussion, you guys are fishing for something else. There's something missing. What's missing? What do you feel
My
is
thing
missing?
is, I think it's more about even a teacher, especially when we're talking about this achievement and we talk about this lack of specific professional development. Because the included teacher is still only providing like 30 minutes support to the kid only 2 times a week.
We're gonna talk about that together. That way we won't have to worry about, yeah, pretty suggestions. Is it cold?
Based on our kids. But I was just gonna.
We're gonna try to mimic it all the way.
Well, we think
Okay, everyone. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go around and we're gonna talk about what we have come up with as a group. Okay, and we're just gonna summarize it in a nutshell. You do not have to go through every bullet. You do not have to go through every bullet. But what we would like to know is, based upon your performance objective, what are the highlights? Are there any additions? Everyone has the copy, so you can follow along. You don't have to read every strategy. If the strategies are aligned, they're great as is, no upgrades. If there are some upgrades, if it's something that needs to be more specific to what? What would you like for it to say, or what should be added to make it more specific? Okay, you don't have to necessarily come up with the exact statement, but what you feel is missing. Okay, so we're going to start with performance objective 1. Your group that had performance objective 1. Who wants to speak? Y'all point at each other. So both of you can tell. So your performance objective that you analyzed.
Yes.
Was it aligned? Will it ensure that those root causes and that problem statement are addressed?
We generally believe that it is aligned.
Very good. So it's aligned. Was there anything missing that you feel like needed to be there? I know you did because I heard the conversation.
Okay, so if we had to say one upgrade to this, we as in me and we would say that on the strategy 1 where it talks about increased inclusion support through SPED facilitators, we're not sure that that is a straight line to student achievement on TEKS aligned assessments, especially since the onus is on the teacher of record to provide the support to those students in the room. And we know we are to ensure that all students have that opportunity to achieve at the highest level. And so we would say that there should be some language in here where the teacher receives more support and mentoring and training specifically around supporting our students who are receiving SPED services.
Right. Because again, like you said, the ownership is on the teacher, and that's a misconception. The teachers think that the ownership is on the inclusion teacher, but the inclusion teacher is supposed to support the teacher.
Yes.
Amen.
And then the only other one that we said they're generally aligned, is our performance objective specifically says student achievement on TEKS aligned assessments in reading and math, grades 6 through 8, and using the projected domain 1 calculation will increase from 36 to 46% by middle of the year 2024-25. However, the district goal is middle grade student achievement grades 6 through 8 on state assessments in all subjects in domain 1. And then ours specifically just talk about math and reading. We have domain 1 for science and social studies. And if we then do not take a look at a progress monitoring piece at mid of the year, then we take our eye off the ball for those subjects as well.
So it should include
all subjects.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Okay, performance objective 2. So that you guys look at your performance objective and figure that your performance objective will address the problem and the root causes.
Well, we said yes, but then of course when Dr. Gowdy talked about the SPED facilitator, yes, that makes a huge difference as well. And
so that just focusing on the performance objective by itself.
yeah, the performance objective by itself.
Okay, so now we can talk about, I mean, you had something else you want to say about the performance objective? I was going to say, so the performance objective by itself will address the problem and the root causes. Okay, so now let's look at the strategies that the district has identified. Will those strategies address the problem?
We had said yes, but again, it needs to be more specific about what it was talking about. Again, I agree with what Dr. Gowdy said about strategy 1.
Specifically the SPED.
When she said SPED facilitator, it again, it's not just a SPED facilitator. It talks about the teacher. It should address the teacher because it puts it back on the teacher. We were talking about strategy 3, expand the number of elementary schools offering 6th grade. So we said that we thought that would help increase that percentage for African American students because it would make the classes smaller. We looked at a way that might be able to, if we offered 6th grade through elementary through 6th grade, then maybe the teacher ratio might be smaller for African American students.
So looking at that, because we were talking about that earlier,
yeah,
and as I'm reading that now and thinking about it, the student teacher ratio is the student teacher ratio. So if you expand it, so what they're saying from here is, from this thing is just moving 6th grade from middle school and putting them back in elementary school. Which means that the same number of teachers that I have for my 6th grade population will be the same number of teachers that they will have. That number will just move to the elementary. So the class sizes will be the same. It won't be a smaller class size. They're just saying put them in an elementary setting instead of putting them in the middle school setting. So will that address
the gap?
The gap. No. If you're not adjusting, in my opinion, the student-teacher ratio, like what would be the point of it?
Exactly.
Or just anything
else.
Or
just anything else.
I think we also in our district have done that, and some campuses in those elementary schools are now Fs.
Putting them back in 6th grade.
Yeah.
What do you
now,
think?
in my opinion, they need to be back in 6th grade.
It's not just, it's not the.
But
not
does
the
this
class
address this?
But
does this address this? So when we were initially looking at it, I'm thinking that they're going to add additional school. They're not adding additional schools. They are just shifting 6th grade back to elementary because I don't know how long you guys have been with the district, but 6th grade used to be with elementary, and then they moved into middle.
So that really would not, okay.
Yeah,
not
so the,
affect
and
the
that's
gap.
unless they make adjustments to student-teacher ratio and additional support
In
An additional support, yes.
And connection.
and connections.
Okay.
So that one,
Curriculum.
are we saying that it is aligned directly or it's not aligned?
We're saying that. No.
Okay,
We're saying
so
that.
strategy 3 is not aligned. Okay. Anything else for your performance objective?
No, because when we looked at strategies 4 and 5, we think that that would be, especially 4 and 5, would be aligned more with the lack of professional development
Okay.
and building the assistant teacher retention. So yes, we see those as aligned.
Okay, very good, very good. Now let's go to our performance objective number 3. So did you guys feel like that specific performance objective as stated would impact the problem statement and the root causes identified?
The performance objectives, yes, but I say that and then the guy said something about that it states all subjects, and then realizing that this objective also only addresses reading and math, so it doesn't address all subjects. So
Okay.
that does need to be adapted. As far as the strategies, again, we said the strategies need to be a little bit more specific. Like it talks about providing a new curriculum to middle school. What exactly what new are you looking for? So kind of just being more specific about what type of curriculum do you see the middle schools need now versus what they already have. And like you said, they've already given you amplified, additional, so you're saying you still need something on top of that. So that just debate.
So let me clarify that. This particular, so our needs assessment for the upcoming year is not done yet. So we're making suggestions for the upcoming year. So this was the needs assessment from last year that supports this year, right? And so this needs assessment from last year that supports this year. So this particular needs assessment from last year that supports this year. So they have already implemented, so the Amplify and the Carnegie was their attempt to implement the new curriculum. So then what's the next step? What else is needed?
Intervention.
Intervention.
Consistent intervention.
Consistent intervention.
Curriculum. Curricula, I should say.
Anything else?
I think we interpret, well, now y'all's was different. The changed middle school model to K through 6. So when we looked at that, we were looking at it from the perspective of changing it like in elementary, K through 6, they have where you go to different teachers, but it's the same group of students that travel together. Whereas ours is a different mixture of students that may go to this teacher, that teacher. And so if following that model, that actually would help with, even with teachers being able to collaborate together about, hey, I got this group of students, you got this group of students. I'm seeing these struggles, you're seeing these struggles, so they would be able to collaborate more.
Cohort.
And that would help close that
So
gap.
your suggestion is for them to rethink their lens of a K-6 model, not the K-6 model of just putting 6th grade to elementary, but the model of the scheduling as well,
Yes.
having cohorts.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what the strategy is. That's what the research is.
Okay, anything additional? Okay, so very good. Ooh, you're making some progress and some suggestions. Very good. Okay, so our last and final thing, we're gonna do this together. Okay, I put a sample protocol on your table. Protocol is a step-by-step process on how to do something. from my mind, I'm thinking of one. There's a specific need of how to implement the new curriculum. So it can be high quality. Instead of everybody trying to figure it out, and then midway, okay, well now you guys can piece it together.
Yeah, it don't work.
You know what I'm saying? Initially, it was you have to do every single thing. Then now you can piece it together. You know, that type of stuff. You know, even though with that, we still should have autonomy to add what we need to add and tweak what we need to tweak. Okay? So that definitely needs to be a protocol.
From a viable curriculum.
Right, from a viable
high quality resource.
High quality resource. Dr. Gowdy is trying to make sure she emphasizes that. Then also, I heard you guys say that these performance objectives are focused on math and reading, and they're not focused on all subjects. There definitely needs to be a protocol to ensure that our strategies on each campus, everything is focused on all subjects. There also needs to be a protocol in which, okay, we're talking about closing this gap, but how do we ensure that this curriculum that we have identified and these strategies for implementing this curriculum, how do we ensure that every single campus is doing this for them? So I threw out about 3 or 4 things. So what we want to do is to think about what can be a general protocol. We can add specifics later. We're just offering suggestions, right? We're just offering suggestions. If they want, you know, either of us to be on the committee to, you know, add additional, you know, information, we'll be more than happy. I know Dr. Gowdy will, because she wants that high quality, viable curriculum, right? So, looking at your sample protocol, is this just a sample protocol? And it ain't even on the subject that we're talking about. What do y'all think we need to make suggest a protocol for? Where are we most lost on the campuses of the expectations of the district? I already hear y'all saying most things, but let's identify something. Where are we most lost? And we definitely need a protocol from the district of how to implement. Are we most lost from the implementation of the curriculum? And we're talking about across the district. Are we most lost? And when I say implementation of curriculum, I'm talking about here with Fidelity. Are we most lost with how to implement the curriculum?
I would like to offer a suggestion.
Okay.
I think the protocol, especially as I look at the root cause and then I look at maybe the strategy for my performance objectives, a couple of them, as we think about the lack of specific middle school professional development, learn to build consistent teacher retention at middle grades. Because I think if we tackle that, we hit the curriculum, we hit the support, providing support in professional development when teachers are coming into challenges with students who may have special needs. Because I do believe when teachers don't know how to do any of those, right, then there would be in any industry, do not want to stay. And so knowing how to do something well, because they feel supported, not that we're giving them support, but they feel there, it may encompass curriculum, encompass SPED, it encompass the honors. Also in performance objective, they talked about a mentoring program. It encompasses those items if we start there, because we know what research will tell us, one of the most important factors in student achievement are teachers.
Right.
And they're high quality, effective teachers. And if we don't take care of that, then it goes for naught for curriculum and anything else.
Okay. That does work. Okay. Absolutely correct.
So this is what I want you to do. I'm gonna give you 5 minutes. Actually, less than 5 minutes. I'm gonna give you 3 minutes. No, I'm gonna give you 2 minutes. 2 minutes. 2 minutes in your groups to come up with about 3 things that you feel like will be steps towards ensuring a high quality professional development program for the district. 3 things. 3 things that you think need to happen in the district to ensure a high quality professional development.
For the curriculum that we use, we have a professional development, the creators of the curriculum, they give you training, they show you how to implement step by step. The people that created the curriculum come out to your classroom, show you how to work with all of your different students. So if that could be transferred, I mean, we do it in SPED, if that could be transferred to the general education classroom, this is what the curriculum is. They'll monitor how our students are progressing in it. They monitor how often are we using it. And if the teachers aren't using it, then I'm sure that they could, conclude it's probably not effective, or why are the teachers not using it? So, and the teachers that are using it effectively, they'll ask, can you go to this teacher's class, train them, show them how do you implement it in your class, what does it look like, how do you apply different aspects of it to the various students in your class. So that's in the specialized programs, but that could very easily be transferred to
You guys have 1 more minute for your discussion. 1 more minute for your discussion.
Even though we don't have, people that are able to
we always talk about like training, and it's like a one-off, right? But it needs to be something that is on their that's why I said,
they've had some all day trainings.
yeah. So that is it's a comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
That's right. District, but like you said, district development, professional development plan, comprehensive, like for all teachers and
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and get started. Bring this back to the whole group. This group over here, give me one of the things on your list. One thing that you said that needs to be implemented in order to ensure a high quality professional development plan for the district.
So, go ahead. So, and I think we talked about this before, but on the special education side of professional development at the very beginning with expectations and how, and just helping the teachers to understand special education, how it works, what their part is, what our part is. Cause I know it's been a lot of, mix up with that as far as even like with student grades and things like that, and how to implement, how to actually go through the IEPs and understand what each student needs are.
And so you're saying at the very beginning
Of the school year.
with that, and so, and that's it? PD that outlines specifics for SPED and slash with roles and responsibilities?
Yes.
That's it? Okay, and that's the very beginning and you're done?
No,
Well, no, I'm not saying that this is gonna be it, but I'm just saying, cause I know we get a lot of new teachers, like brand new teachers that don't even know what an IEP is.
So you
So
mean
just-
like maybe differentiated, maybe a differentiated PD?
So like at the very beginning, whoever's here and hired at that point, everyone will get that training before school starts.
Like the district actually used to do.
Like we
They
used to, yeah,
that
it used
long
to be that
time
way.
ago.
Yes.
And
The
then
PSYOP trainings that we used to get a long time
And
ago.
as new teachers come, they have a day of professional development before they begin. So that they get that same training, but they have a day specific for, here's what you need to know.
So revamping, because they actually do have their, at the beginning, all new teachers have to go to professional development before everybody else, but they need to have it specifically added for this. Okay.
And they're saying also the ones that say, for instance, they was not here when school started beginning in August.
Maybe
Say
came
you
in
got
October.
hired in December, we planned a specific one just for those teachers that came in from August to December, so you'll have another PD training to learn those specifics.
I'm gonna say, thinking about what y'all are saying, and Dr. Galley and I was in a meeting on yesterday, and actually I have reiterated this every time we have to have one of those meetings. LPAC, they have a training for every phase of the year. It's not like a one size fit all or one hitter quitter. You give all of the information all at the beginning of the year, and then that's it, and we'll support you and reach out. Every phase of the year, what's due at each phase of the year and how to do it. They will have a meeting at the beginning. They're not telling you everything that needs to happen. They'll give you like an overview, but the meeting is relevant. The PowerPoint outlines every single thing, has a how-to, everything. Then, pretty much you can follow the PowerPoints and figure it out, right? But also, if you have issues, there's a coordinator that each person can call. I love it. Because if you're lost because you want to be.
Yes.
Right? So maybe something similar to that for SPED, especially since there's so many components. Maybe? No? Yes?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, because I think like even with the department, we get updates throughout the year department wise, but it doesn't necessarily apply to the teachers.
So you're talking about all teachers in general, not just your inclusion teachers, but
Right.
everybody. So that the teachers would know their role.
And how to look at an IEP and how to break it, like we used to do before,
Right.
to break it down,
Gotcha.
like in
Gotcha.
Yes.
Okay. This group right here, give me one of the things you have on your list.
We talked mostly on the professional development. I was highlighting how in a centralized unit, they have individuals who create the curriculum that come out, they train the teachers, it's like an all-day thing. They'll come out to your classrooms, work hands-on with the kids that you actually have in there, so you can see exactly what does it look like implemented in a real-life classroom, not just seeing someone run through a PowerPoint. And we're saying that could be possibly effective if it could transfer over to the general education.
So creators of the curriculum train teachers and co-teach, so that the teachers can see the implementation goes. Okay. Okay. We got a list.
Sorry.
Give me one on your list.
Can you just do one? Can we give this? Okay, but we
Yeah,
did
first,
say, listen, we did talk about creating a district comprehensive system of ongoing professional development throughout the year. That's for all teachers. That also would include mentoring program incentives as well. That could go into their summative. And then, as we talked about, partnerships with university and colleges and other organizations as part of that. But being able to track the implementation of those skills learned in professional development by a see it, name it, do it model, which the district has come into, because we're talking about do it, and we want to know the level of confidence that you can do the skill that you have learned, and you're able to implement that, and they could possibly do that through incorporating AI into where you can record yourself. AI can give you feedback on it, and it becomes a portfolio, and you can continuously be coached on all of these trainings that you are to be participating in throughout the entire year.
And thinking about what you're talking about, the district actually, see, it's a lot of things. So when we change leaders, sometimes we throw the baby out with the bathwater. We used to have, I forgot what that organization was years ago, used to come in, give us a model, coaching model, but then would also coach us in the classroom, record us, let us look at ourselves, sit down and give us feedback. Let us come up with, okay, where were the gaps in our instruction, and then redo. And it was a phase throughout the year.
Because that's best practices in
right
as it relates to adult training.
Right. And so we used to have that program in order to do that. And so what I'm going to do is your list, the rest of your list, we're going to take them and I'm going to compile it. And the information that we've collected, I am going to make sure that district representatives have the information that we have compiled, and hopefully the suggestions that you guys have made that will take into consideration in this. Okay? I am going to end our meeting by thanking every last one of you for your participation and for taking out your time to assist with this endeavor. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I think it was a great meeting.
You think it was a great meeting?
Thank you for inviting
I
Yes.
really appreciate the invite, yes.
Okay. And so can you expound upon why you feel like it was great?
I think we got like a lot accomplished, like getting different opinions on how we feel about different things when it comes to the district. So being able to address how we feel about it.
Very good. Anything else you'd like to add or? Good? Okay. If nothing else, we want to appreciate everybody, and I'm going to clap for you, and you clap for your neighbors and your partners who assisted you. We want to thank everybody, and before you leave, grab some more food, please.
Everybody sign in.
And please sign in. Okay. Thank you.